This is going to be the temporary home of Amathea's garden. This is in my daughter and son-in-law's house, and they very kindly allowed me to set up a temporary reef tank. Hey everybody, Reefgrrl here, and welcome to my channel. The next year in my reefing life is going to be crazy. So if you haven't already, why not think about subscribing and hit that notification bell so you can be right up to date with stuff as it happens. If you follow my channel, you'll know that this tank is already up and running, but I thought it would be good to go back and show you the process of setting it up, the decisions that were made, some good, some not so good, and the problem-solving process I went through. We need to start with a leak test because this tank has been moved several times and we've used it for different things over the years. And it was built in 2000, 20 years ago. We're bringing our ODI water from home and hand bombing it 2 gallons at a time because their property is on a well and this would use up a lot of their water. It'll take about 3 weeks to get all the water over here because we can't come every day and we can only bring about 15 gallons at a time. To keep the water circulating during that time and prevent it from becoming stagnant, I picked up a Tunzi Turbel NanoStream 6015. I have several of these and I really like them. As long as the tank survives the leak test, I will be adding salt to the RODI water, and that way it won't go to waste. I can make my salt water right in the tank. So here we go, I'm going to turn it on. All right. Of course, when you set up a tank that might leak in someone else's house, you need a leak detector. So I picked up a couple of these leak puppies on Amazon. They weren't expensive, they run on batteries, and they're not hooked up to anything. But they're going to do the trick. You'll get to hear the noise they make when I test them, and you'll see what I mean. Warning for headphone users, this is really loud. All right, so we got leak puppy all put together. Now we're going to test. Ready? Yep, it works. Lovely. Dried it off. So we're good to go. So there's leak puppy number 1 on the job to detect any leaks that happen outside the tank. Leak puppy number 2 will be in the container with the filter once the filter's running. Hopefully we won't hear anything from leak puppy. Second batch of water is in. No issues with any leaks or seeps or oozes or drops. So next time we come, we will bring another 15 gallons.
3 weeks later.
Yes, it did take about 3 weeks to get all the water over here, and now it's time to start up the filter. This is an old Filstar that we used to run on this tank when it was freshwater. We have no idea how it's going to perform since it's been in storage for well over a year. It turned out we didn't have the correct fittings to join the hose to the U-pipe that goes into the tank. So we set up this sketchy temporary solution and it leaks. But the leak is over the tank, so it'll have to do until we can get back and solve the problem. A few more weeks went by and we didn't hear a peep out of leak puppy, so I decided to go ahead and make salt water. I had a bucket of Instant Ocean on hand. I measured 45 cups of salt directly into the RODI water, and the filter did the rest of the job. This tank will have sand, and these rocks are acting as placeholders so that when I bring the pieces of the reef over, I can remove the rocks and put those pieces directly on the bottom. And oh yes, leak puppy number 2 told us there was a problem. The filter was leaking, so I replaced it with a Fluval 406. Once the rocks were in, it was time for sand. The bag said for best results, rinse the sand. As you can see, I am not getting the best results because it's winter and I couldn't rinse the sand outside with a garden hose. I did give rinsing a try in the sink. I got about halfway through one bag and it was going nowhere fast, and I was using a heck of a lot of water. This whole cloud is just from the rest of that bag being dumped in. Yeah. Here it is the next day, and you can see that a lot of it has either settled or been filtered out. But look at the equipment. It is covered in a thick, greasy sludge. I'm going to have to remove it all and clean it up. And take a look at the rock. It's also covered in this white, grungy stuff. I'm going to have to get it off of there with a turkey baster. So in retrospect, I really should have tried to find a way to rinse the sand at home and not brought it to use it until I knew it was clear. Yeah, lesson learned. And here's the other side effect of messy sand. I have to take this completely apart and clean it out. This sludge will negatively affect the pump because it is a little bit gritty. So once I've cleaned all of that out, I'll be rinsing the rest of the sand, adding it to the tank, letting it clear, and then starting the cycle. Oh yeah, ammonia, baby. Not bad, nitrite. Tank is cycling. Now it's clear. Oh, look who's here. It's Hunter, the supervisor. Today is March the 10th. Tank's been cycling since February 15th, and today is March 23rd. This is the first nitrate test, and check it out. Lovely. Looks like we have somewhere around 25. So now with 0 ammonia, 0 nitrite, and 25 parts per million of nitrate, it is time to test the biological filtration by adding some food. If there's enough bacteria in here to process this food, then this live rock and the canister full of media will be ready for the tank to receive fish. So I'll add this thawed brine shrimp, and the next time I come, I'll test the water and hope that we still have 0 ammonia, 0 nitrite, and some parts per million of nitrate. That'll tell me that there's enough bacteria in here to process fish waste. There we go, March the 27th, 0 ammonia. Nitrate test. Doesn't look like any to me. March 27th, nitrate of around 25. Just before we put the fish in, it's time to add the lights. I have a pair of Luxbird, cheap Chinese black boxes that I got on Amazon. They seem like pretty good lights. And my biggest concern is this center brace casting a shadow. I'll get a better idea when I check the par. What do we have here? Well, we have 5 mollies from Mollywood. The 5 mollies are in the tank, and they're already starting to pick at cords and equipment. But there isn't much algae in here yet, and they'll be getting algae flakes daily until more algae grows for them to eat. At this point, you might be asking yourself, what the heck is she going to do about an ATO? My original plan was to use a high door smart level. I wasn't thinking about the large surface area in here, and it took far too long for the water to drop enough to trigger the sensor. This, of course, meant far too much water was evaporating before being replaced. It's normally in a small chamber, so smaller amounts of water evaporating is what makes it work properly. I needed a plan B. Plan B turned out to be replacing evaporated water by calculated dosing of RODI water. I found this little gadget on Amazon. It's called the Moistenland, and it's meant for watering plants. Over the course of a week, we measured how much water we were returning to the tank manually, and it turns out that every day the tank evaporates approximately 6 cups of water, roughly 48 ounces. The timer can be run up to 12 times a day, so 48 ounces divided by 12 is 4 ounces per time. 12 doses in 24 hours is every 2 hours, so that's going to be the schedule. Because it's essentially a timer, I need to know how much water it can pump in a given time. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm checking how long it takes to pump 8 ounces of water. Then I can figure out how long it needs to run every 2 hours to deploy 4 ounces of water into the tank. This will be a little bit of trial and error, and it will need some adjustment as time goes by. So here's the setup. The hose is at the back edge of the tank and travels down here to the Moistenland unit. The container that holds the RODI water is on the floor nearby. It's a USB plug-in, so I'm using an old phone charger to connect it to the power bar. Next on the agenda is setting the par in the holding tank to match the par in the main tank. I already made a map of the par in the main tank, so now all I need to do is adjust the lights to match by using this par sensor to measure what the par actually is in the holding tank. A couple of weeks later, it's late April, and I've solved a couple of problems. Got the ATO running perfectly, rock solid salinity 1.025, and I was shocked to discover that the setting that I was using on the lights rendered 600 par at the surface. So I fixed that up and then started moving corals. I've had these large pieces of coral skeleton for several years, and they are beautiful. I decided to put them in here to start curing because they're going to be a main feature in the new tank. Right at this point in the process is where I got the new canister filter, and I made a video called Will I Be Sorry? Well, so far I'm not. It's actually working very well. So there you go, that's a bit of an update. Thanks so much for watching, I really appreciate it, and don't forget to hit that notification bell because things have moved on. A lot more has happened.